Right, we've got comms there. Oh, and I nearly did that again. Anyone? How do I always forget where this thing is? Public. That's what I want to do. I need to figure that out every time. Suppose we should get the old TikTok up and running. The most aggressive chat on the internet. And I'm undecided whether to do one in Kick, which is another platform. Oh, wouldn't you believe it? There is an update for TikTok Live Studio. Yeah, make sure I they're not really. We'll see if that will come on. Just give it a second and we can begin. Do I do Kick? Do I do Kick? This is the question. Do I start streaming on Kick as well? Just asking for trouble, really, aren't you? If you just have too many chats going on. Okay, so we can maybe do that there, and we can just go live here. I wish I knew how to do the notification that comes up. I think I said this yesterday as well, but I don't know. So maybe should I set a subscription goal? Can you do that? Become a would be nice, please consider, because I'm not really, I don't really mind becoming for how is that over this thing? Give me 2 seconds, chat. I will be with you. Please becoming a member. Maybe please consider becoming a member. I don't know. It won't let me submit it anyway, so I don't know. I just want 10. Is that too much to ask? Do you know what? We're not that bothered. Let's just go live. We're already 10 minutes late. And I don't want to get myself in trouble. Right. I have no idea if that's live. I never do until things start moving on that side. Right. I will come back to you, YouTube. I'm pretty sure people have started to plug in. And yes. Hello. I'm taking requests for names, lol. I mean, yeah, I'll answer a name, a question with regards to a name. Maybe it's locality, or I can give you a bit of history about some of the names as well. That's not a problem. The chat does tend to get a bit hectic, so I don't see all of the names. By and large, I tend to try and start the stream with some sort of tidbits and information and history. Is this jock surname live? So the second hour of the stream will be for Scotland. So we will do the first hour for Ireland, and then the second hour for Scotland. So, and then maybe tomorrow it'll just be, maybe then it'll just be Scotland tomorrow, and we can sort of go through that, because like I said, I acknowledged last night there's a link between the two, and it only seems right that if you're going to do Ireland, you may as well do Scotland as well. I will put a wee addendum on this, so that my primary area of study is the Highlands and the Reaver families. So I'm not that. I'm fairly clued up, maybe more than the layman, on the northeast and north of Scotland, and east, of Scotland. But the Highlands and the Reavers are sort of my main area of expertise. But I will try to make sure that I encompass as many as I can. So let's just start with the greetings of everyone. I really wish I could make TikTok chat bigger, so that I could see more people coming in, especially if I've got any of my members coming in. I would hate to miss any of you guys, since you are what allows this channel to sort of function. Scotland, I listen to a lot of Scotland history tour guys. So there's some great Scottish history. So Clint Edwards of Scottish History Podcast is another great one. He does very similar work to what I do, but it's more towards Scotland. He barely touches Ireland, but I've worked with him in the past. He has a great channel. I would highly recommend seeing either his podcast or his YouTube channel for sort of a bit more information about them. So so I don't know what I thought I saw Fahy, Galway family, that's often anglicised to Green now, and I believe they've actually got a wee town in Galway, like Fahy Town or something. It's Fahy. I don't want to say Fahyville. But there's definitely a wee townland in Galway, but it's around the Lochray area. So that family would have a lot of connections with Galway, the town of Galway, Mayo, the Mayo Burkes, but you've also got the McWilliam Burkes in Galway as well, two rival branches that would be heavily involved in the administry in that area where the Fahys are from. Oh my god. And so it begins with the with the Kavanaghs, or a Leinster family. They come from the king group, the Edenley, and they descend primarily from Diarmid MacMurrough, the famous king who invited the Normans across. Although it's not as black and white as that, but for this sort of brief explanation, he invited the Normans across, and his son Kavanagh was looked over for the kingship of Leinster for Strongbow, who was the Anglo-Norman knight that had married Aoife, MacMurrough's daughter. He didn't have a problem with that whenever they were getting married. So, and there was a reason for that. But later on he tried to rebel, and his descendants would rule parts of Leinster. And actually, they had a bit of a rebellion until Henry II came over in 1172, was it? And due to him coming across and sort of meeting their demands and sort of stamping his authority on Ireland, they're one of the few families that actually have a coat of arms that's actually an ancient coat of arms that comes from the medieval period. So that's the Kavanaghs. So let's have a look here. I wish JLB Ruby Moon, thanks very much for the hearts. You do not have to gift. Laurie Cat, thank you very much. I really do appreciate the gifts. Let's have a look here. So who else was asking that? I thought I saw another name. The O'Sullivans. I've covered them pretty much most nights. Started this part of Ireland and were forced down by the McCarthys. Before then moving on to Kerry and South Cork. I do have a video on them. But there's also another branch, actually I forget to mention most times, but there's a small branch up here who are unrelated. But the name seems to have died out. So but then again, there are Sullivans in Ulster, so it's hard to say, for certain if they're, if they're still extant. Is McFall? I have ancestors called. No, I saw another name you mentioned there earlier. McFall or McFall. Yeah. So McFall, McPhail, McPaul. It's all sort of similar. They all come from McMuilfall, and it's a Tyrone family. But there's also a Scottish line as well. So the branches will have come across from Scotland. And I believe they ended up in primarily in Donegal, but then Tyrone and Donegal had a lot of migration, so it's kind of, I guess if you have the McFall surname to distinguish your direct lineage from either one would be quite difficult without the help of genetics. I need to lubricate the old mouth there. I'm seeing quite a lot of Scottish surnames. I will do Scottish surnames in the second half of the talk, from 11 p.m. Dublin time. So don't think any. Coleman, yeah. So a Meath family of Coleman. Obviously an English surname as well. The Colemans, quite prominent. I think Coleman's mustard. I always think of whenever I think of the Colemans of England. But yeah, the Colemans are a Meath family. They are descended from the Southern E. Neil, so they were related to Mill Shocknall, High King of Ireland before Brian and Boru's rise, so that's the sort of main area at the Colemans there. Wow. Hang on, Clearys. I've done them for pretty much most nights as well. Clearys are often anglicised to Clark now, but Clearys are Galway Clare sort of originating family, and they end up becoming historians and scribes and lawyers and brehons for most families primarily in Donegal. They migrated to Donegal is a hot spot for them, but they pretty much ended up all over Ireland, giving their trade to the lords and ladies of Ireland, and writing some very important manuscripts. They have made their stamp on history, definitely. O'Reilly's, again, I've covered them most nights. East Breffni Cavan, related to the O'Rourke's. They're kinsmen and rivals for the kingship of Breffna. Sometimes they were on top, the other times the O'Rourke's were on top of the political stage, and just basically doing what families do, but just a heightened version of that in medieval Ireland. O'Callaghan has multiple branches. Primarily, they are an O'Noctor family, found in Munster. But there are there's multiple sort of variations of the name. There's an Ulster branch of the Callaghans, and there's an Erna family of Callaghans. Although I've been unable to locate the church that they're associated with, I am still researching that to find out what church they owned lands in, and hopefully when I do my Erna video on YouTube, I'll have located that Have you ever heard of the Englishman George from Ireland? Lol, he's very posh, and he is a Callahan. I don't. I mean, wasn't there a Callahan Prime Minister of England in the like 70s or something? That's the only Callahan I know that's English, and I think actually his family moved to Wales before he would become. Uh, isn't there an Irish surname and it's just English? Yes. So primarily, it's assumed that that name comes from the fact that you would have obviously when you have Englishmen coming across from um, England to Ireland to settle during the medieval period. The lines aren't so black and white. There's a lot of areas, so lands would ebb and flow, being owned by a Gaelic lord or an English lord, or you would just have like an Englishman living in a Gaelic area because he was a tradesman, a knight, a soldier. You know, he married an Irish woman, and it was a name just ascribed to them, a nickname. You know, it's like John English. He's the English guy. And that is where the name came from. Eventually. So so they are Englishmen who moved to Ireland and settled in Irish heirs, and the same goes for the surname Irish. There's a surname called Irish, and it would be a name that would be ascribed to Irishmen that were living in like of the Pale, or maybe Galway if they were the very few times they were allowed into Galway. You know, these hubs of English towns. And you would just be, you know, there's John the Irishman, John Irish, and it's obviously found in England as well for very much the same reason. I thought English was a surname found on the Scottish borders to distinguish from it. As in the surname English, yeah. So English is again it comes from the same. Like Old English, yes. Well, not really Old English, because they're not really. You're just English all through that sort of period, so it doesn't matter if you came with the sort of what migration group you came with. You could be ascribed that name. You could have come across various times within that sort of 200-300 year period. But Scotland, there's the same sort of thing. It's, you know, you've got Englishmen living on the border river areas. You know, there's a lot of ebb and flow between the two areas. The borders were never fixed, or very rarely fixed. You know, and there's also this saying like as well that just because you claim you own an area, you know, so you put it on your map, you have that claimed area, but you know, do you actually? There's a lot of areas. So the border river areas of Scotland and England, you know, were claimed by England, Scotland. There was a definitive line by this period in this 15th, 16th century of, you know, what Scotland was administrating, what Ireland was administrating. But the border reivers weren't recognising either of them, or were recognising both, or just sort of pandering to one side to keep them off their back, to keep the law off the back. Which is why England would then bring in sheriffs. I don't think they were actually called sheriffs, but they were sheriffs into the area to sort of get a stronger administration of the area. And it's one of the reasons why they were shipped off to Ulster during the plantations of Ulster in the 18th and 17th century, or 17th century, sorry, because you know, it was just a way of sort of buying their loyalty and getting them the heck out of England. It'd be much of the same. Too many English. Well, you know, I remember people saying too many Irish. So depends where you are. O'Kelly's got multiple branches: Scottish family, an unrelated English family, and then you've obviously got the famous Kellys here. You've got the famous Kelly. Famous Kellys. Most famous Kellys are from this sort of neck of the woods, but you've also got Kellys up here. You've got Kellys up here. They're all unrelated. I believe there's even an Ulster line, all unrelated. But I'd say that I'm gonna mispronounce this. It's spelled like Emian. It looks like in the English language you'd see it as Emian, but that's not how it's pronounced. But in Old Irish, but it's, you know, it's this neck of the woods here, and they're probably the most prominent in Ireland before the Kellys of Scotland would come down and settle with the plantations. But there's a famous ice cream company in Cornwall from the Kelly family of the English origin, who are, like I said, unrelated to all. Doherty and McLaughlin, I've covered them before. But Doherty's from Inishowen, and Loughlin's are primarily from Tyrone or Westmeath, two families related to, for argument's sake, Niall's Nine Hostages through the northern and southern Neil branches, which are ancient king groups. But you've also got the Loughlin's coming across from Scotland, who the main branch in Scotland did claim in their genealogies to be of the same branch of, of the Kinlowen. But I'm pretty sure there's a Norse descended or claimed Norse descended branch as well in Scotland. So, again, this sort of, they settled in this neck of the woods here, Donegal, Northern Derry. So, that's Kelly's Cornish ice cream goes hard. I've never actually tried it, and I'm a big ice cream eater, a really big ice cream eater. But I've never tried it, so I won't just take your word on it. I'd love to go to England again, and maybe I've been to Cornwall once, but it was for the beach, not for any sightseeing or anything like that. Driscolls, I've covered them in multiple videos. I've got a short video on the Driscolls as well, but from Cork, and they became pirates and trade. They actually made most of their wealth from the fishing rights of Bantry Bay and trading with French wines. In the medieval period, and of course piracy. But what an Irishman called piracy, or what a Driscoll called piracy, and what an Englishman called piracy, in the 14th and 15th century would be two totally different things. Mainly because, it was English ships that were attacking. So, Burns, Burns, multiple origin points again. There's an unrelated branch up here. In Louth, who claimed descent from the Wicklow line. I've got a whole video on them. The Wicklow Burns. They come from the Edule king group related to the O'Tooles. So anyone's asking about O'Tooles, they're down here too. And Wicklow has got a great wee history of being quite an independent wee hotspot, fighting off English army encroachments during the 15th and 16th centuries. And there's Fiach O'Byrne, who was one of the leaders of, or early leaders that led to the 9 Years' War. Quite an interesting character. Gigi Spratting, Arm Heart Butterfly Wing, Gigi Spratting, Gem, Queen Peggy, Good Boy Tilo, Andy, Anna, thank you very much for your first gift. Benjamin, Sarah, Anne Marie, Dennis, Dark Adventure, Jamie Harvey, Luper, Christina, Ruby, Jill, Laurie, Kat. I think I already said them, but thanks very much for the gifts. This Tuffy, thanks very much for the gifts. You don't have to gift. I always say that if you got money burning a hole in your pocket, I would really appreciate the coming along to join our memberships, where I have membership only lives. They're a bit more personal, and this membership only live on the 17th of March on St. Patrick's Day is all the families who were involved in St. Patrick's life in Ireland, whether they be the family that kidnapped him, whether they be the family who bought him and kept him as a slave or a shepherd, or whether they be the family that he converted. We're going to be doing a lot of so he has links to Mayo, to Kerry, to Ulster, primarily in origin stories or myths and legends. I'm going to do it as if they are all true. So if you have families from Munster, Connacht or Ulster, it could be an interesting Wicklow Burns, Hosier. My wife loves Hosier. She went to see him in Belfast. He does have a great singing voice. So, right. I'm trying to go back up to this chat and see if I can get any of the older requests in. Andrea Kate, thank you very much for the gifts. I really appreciate that. So 9 Years' War. How many Gaelic leaders would they? sorry, 9 Years' War, how many Gaelic leaders would they have been even? As in, like, how many Gaelic leaders were leading the rebellion? During the 9 Years' War, there were people that obviously sided with the English. There were also families that sort of flittered on the edges, trying to play both sides. The O'Dohertys, famously, and this is another thing. Obviously, you've got branches of families doing their own thing for political gain. So you've got O'Neills. There's this branches of the O'Neills who are heavily involved in the sort of instigation of the 9 Years' War. They're starting to get very annoyed with the English encroachments and the English reneging on their promises of, so they're starting to sort of get really angry in Fermanagh with the Maguires. But then you've got the Earl of Tyrone, who's Hugh O'Neill, who at the time is he was fostered to a family in Dublin, I believe it was, but an English family. He's trying to play middleman between the Gaelic Irish and the English to sort of like calm down tensions, and he ends up becoming the leader of the 9 Years' War, effectively. So, and that just gives you an example of how the way families could flitter between sides. It's much like the Battle of Bannockburn and the Scottish War of Independence. Many families change sides multiple times. Yes, the Brady's are from Cavan. They're a Brehon family. So that's down here. The Ryans, there's multiple Ryans. Tipperary is probably where the most concentrated version, but you've got a family up in, I believe, Donegal, but Ulster, from Moyle Ryan. Believe there's links to Idrone as well, or that's our ancient kingdom. So yeah, they're quite prominent in this area here. Actually, Tipperary Antiquarian on Facebook. He's a Ryan, and he does a lot of research in Ryan. So if you are a Ryan and you want someone who sort of is highlighting graveyards in the area that have Ryans and stuff like that, so it's the Tipperary Antiquarian on Facebook. He's a really good person to follow if you are a Ryan. O'Keefe's, yeah, they're from the Duhallow area, related rivals and related to the McAuliffes. Therefore, the Owen Octor Cashel, I've covered them a few times before as well on lives. So, they're from this neck of the woods. So, and a branch of them actually, whenever the O'Sullivans were fleeing during the 9 Years' War, after what you call your famous O'Sullivan? Anyway, O'Sullivan Barra, but he was fleeing north with a group of his survivors. A branch of the O'Keefes actually ambushed him. But the reason for that Gaelic families may have been assisting the English to attack a caravan of survivors was purely because, some of them anyway, was purely because they were just trying to harry them and move them on from their lands, because to have them in their lands too long would be raise them under suspicion. But then again, you are going to have branches who were very much anglicised. The O'Maras spent a lot of time being quite cozied up to their butler overlords. It was an act of survival, and it worked out quite well for them for a long time. So the Caulfield. I'm not sure so much on Caulfield. I'm pretty sure the Caulfield. I'm pretty sure I did it on a video. Caulfield was an anglicisation of an Irish name. But I'm trying to think what it was. Have I got my notes here from that video? McCall. There you go. So McCall. Some of the McCalls became Caulfields, but obviously Caulfield is an Anglo-Irish surname. So and McCathmall, who here you go. So that's what I was trying to say on the last live. The McCathmalls, McCalls, of Armagh. They would often be they can quite often be Caulfields. They can also be Campbells. So if any Campbells are out there who think they're of Scottish descent from the Argyll family, there's quite a possibility. It's smaller because they are a smaller family, but it's, if you're from the Armagh region, there's a chance that you could be from the McCaffmill family of Campbells. Totally unrelated. So that really sad though. I hear a lot of old people who couldn't do the journey got left behind, only to be pushed off the cliff and cry. Yeah, so you're on about the massacre of Dursey, I believe you may be on about. So yeah, there was a lot of atrocities during that sort of period, and that's. There's a couple of commanders that sort of really stick out during the 9 Years' War being quite brutal. The problem with the 9 Years' War is it had a real strong undertone of religious antagonism, and the church, the Irish church, were prodding at places. Yeah, and you're coming off the back of sort of Mary's reign, which was quite bloody. Henry Tudor's Reformation, so it was quite a tumultuous time all along the Isles of Ireland and Britain, and there was a lot of hatred there. So yeah, it's funny because Cromwell gets the bad rap for his invasion of Ireland, but the Tudor conquest of Ireland was far more brutal. And I often feel like Cromwell is seen as the most hated figure in Irish history. But I would say there's more cause. Not that I feel like anyone should be hating anyone from the past, as it's long gone. But I mean, if you're going to use those sort of metrics to hate someone, whatever metrics you're applying around the warfare and conquest, I believe Elizabeth I should really take the heat. The Lord Deputy of Ireland was probably more brutal now. Yeah, so Cromwell, as much as he was seen as quite a aggressive character, he really wasn't for the time period. I mean, he still wasn't, and when you look back at him in context with how we would look back on people, but for the time period he was quite a fair man, which I know saying that to anyone from Drogheda might or Waterford might ruffle a few feathers, but that has to come with a bit of context as well, and there is a bit of context to those sort of sieges. But by and large, he the famous term "to hell or Connacht," which is attributed to Oliver Cromwell, never came from Oliver Cromwell. In fact, it was a term that was coined through the Houses of Parliament, and Cromwell tried to fight this law. And this is the thing about Cromwell is he was basically, I think, if the best way I could think of it is he was like your early version of a British nationalist, in the sense of like their idea of like the British Isles, and they owned it. So he didn't really appreciate the Irish trying to fight back on what was their God-given land, or the English's God-given land, so the Commonwealth. So I think whenever you try and get in his mindset, that's really the way I sort of try to approach it, with that sort of mindset of, whenever you think of a country claiming sovereignty over another because they've owned it for several hundred years, that kind of nationality built in. Because he was quite liberal when it came to religion. In fact, he would allow people to attend mass. He wouldn't stop anyone from attending mass. So he was only fair to English Puritans, really. See, here's the thing: he was more anti-royalist than most. Now, I think there's a famous quote attributed to him. He'd rather. I might get this wrong or wrong, but basically he ranked in this term. He basically says, "I'd rather not deal with the Irish, the Scottish, like the Presbyterians and the Royalists, but in that order. So he hated the Irish the most. I think he hates a strong word, but disliked the Irish the most, followed by Scottish Presbyterians, followed by Royalists. So I think really if you apply that logic to to it, in the sense of that, if you were, he may have only liked English Puritans, but if you were any of the other three rankings beyond that, then would dictate how he was to you. Sorry, excuse me. Did he just not like them because of... No, he wasn't actually really that... He hated the clergy. Very much hated the clergy. But he didn't hate Catholics. That's the thing that you have to understand. He never hated Catholics. He hated the Catholic clergy, and he hated Royalists. That was it. That's who he hated. But he and even if he had hate, because he was quite a Christian man, he would probably be so upset to be associated with hatred. He's a good Christian man, but at the same time, what it was hatred. So my ancestors from County Mayo. I'm related to a lot of Vikings. What's the vibe? I don't understand what the vibe would be. The link with Mayo. Mayo was never really settled by the Vikings. I mean, the River Shannon, Limerick. These are the so Munster and Leinster are your hotspots. They did settle in Ulster for a wee while, but every time they went off, so they were settling and building wee kingdoms, and every time they went off to secure because these kings were the Emer, or the sons of Ivor the Boneless, according to the Irish annals. And so they had lands in Northern England, they had lands in Scotland, and they had lands in Ireland. And every time they went to secure the lands in Scotland or Ireland, the Ulster clans would come in and just wreck their towns. So, yeah. Do Maguire, my family immigrated to Scotland during the famine? Yeah, Maguires are a very famous family in Fermanagh. Very localized. I think there's actually only one branch, as in the sense of they all descend from the same. I don't know of any other Maguires existing in the rest of Ireland. So, and if you go to Inniskillen, there's a castle there that was originally built by the Maguires, and it's got it became an English stronghold, but it's got a military museum. It's well worth a visit. I was led to believe he did hate them. Influence from the invention of printing press, English people were fed to extreme lies. No, again, if you look at, I'm gonna have to, hang on, I can't remember his name. Is it Carlisle? Cromwell. The historian, I think his surname's Carlisle. Just give me 2 seconds on that one. Where is he? Oh, Morrill. So Professor John Morrill is. Can you talk? Yeah. So hello, Brehon Academy. I'll get to you in 1 second. If any of you are on, Ollie is on TikTok and he is on YouTube, make sure you pop across to Brehon Academy's channel, especially if you've an interest in ancient history when it comes to laws, and he would have a lot of overlap with this channel as well. So he's a really great channel and really great guy, so I would please ask you to go across and visit his channel. So as we're saying, so Professor John Morrill is a great he spent his whole career around Cromwell pretty much, and he is he's basically proven that it's not hatred. I mean, there was obviously he's influenced by Parliament, he's influenced by a lot of factors, but as an individual, and he has to take actions based on him being Lord Protector. He's got to take actions that secure his position, which maybe aren't in line with his own personal beliefs. But by and large, he was quite, like I say, quite liberal when it came to the idea of Catholicism as a religion. He just hated the church and the clergy, and it's mainly because the clergy were arming the Irish, they were getting heavily involved in the politics. Whenever originally it wasn't even a religious dispute in Ireland so much. It was more about land ownership. It was more about, but then the church sort of were trying to put, whenever the Irish were sort of putting their demands in, the church were also putting their demands in as well. And because they were funding a lot of the rebellions, they had a seat at the table. So so that's a wee bit on Cromwell. I will actually do a video on them, on Oliver Cromwell, I think. And I don't normally do individuals, but I think he's an important one that should be done. So I did see Brian's wee comment here. So can you talk about the Maguire clan's name change? Reference the Book of Armagh. I cannot. I wasn't aware of a name change within the Maguires. I mean, I know there was a lot of branches that came from the Maguires, such as Macaulay's. I believe they have what was the other? So from Clanolly is the main one, but I'm unaware of a name change from. I know again they come from the Fermanagh, and they claim descent from Conla, who was a Laois branch. And they claim they moved up here, and it's quite possible they did, because Fermanagh is a group of people that's not really known much about, although their name has retained in the kingdom. A lot of times a lot of families would migrate into areas, and a lot like our ancient historical sites like the Hills of Tara, they were retained and adopted by the incomers into the area. So but yeah, they've got the McCaffrey and McCannises as well, are branches of them, but I wasn't aware. They used to be called something called which meant son of the stewards, McEar. No, if it's got a H, it's a softer, so ear. And they changed it when they changed it from that, when a relative tried to sell the Book of Armagh, the family were the custodians, and apparently they. No, so I don't believe. I have a different family as being custodians of Armagh, so that's maybe why I'm confused about that. Who did I have as custodians? I do have a note here. I had another family as being, like I say, I give me 2 seconds to sort of remember who that is. I want to say something black. It's anglicised black. Yes, Mac and Amor. Yes. So apparently they were Scarla from the clan's name and changed it to similar sounding Maguire. Hang on, I have to read that whole thing again. So they used to be called something like MacAir, which meant son of the steward, and they changed it from that when a relative tried to sell the Book of Armagh, as their family were the custodians. Apparently they were Scarla for their clan's name and changed it to similar sounding Maguire. I was not. No worries if you can't recall. Please move on to the next question. Move along. It'll come to me. But no, that's an interesting thing. I wasn't aware of the Maguire's link to Armagh and the Book of Armagh, or any family that would have links to Armagh moving to Fermanagh, or vice versa. So that's something that I will look forward to researching later. That's a really interesting tidbit of information, which came from the Brehon Academy people. So get across there, subscribe to his channel. Let me just, I know a load of gifts have come in here. Kate, Patrick, Water Living, Kimberly, Emma Green, Bailey, J Mac, Connor, Caitlin, Connor O'Mahan, Connor again, Connie, sorry, Granny, Bentley. You don't have to gift. Really do appreciate it, but you don't have to. We're just here for good old Chinwag and hopefully broaden your sort of awareness of Irish history, primarily Irish medieval history, and do you know anything about? I just saw Hamilton's. I didn't see what else was part of that question. So Hamilton's, there's a lot of Hamiltons that came across, and Donegal. In fact, they were one of the major landowners of the plantations of Ulster. I believe they still own a castle in Killelea, which is down here, not on the peninsula of Ards. There's a castle still there, owned by Hamiltons, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, they were, and if you read anything with the Williamite Wars in Ireland, they were heavily involved in that too, which is obviously a lot later than the 1603 or 1608 was the Flight of the Earls. So it's the end of Gaelic Ireland, Gaelic Order of Ireland. Jen Tracy, I appreciate Duke, thank you. Honda Tech, thank you. Firefly, Fred Aiken. I'm seeing a lot of names still. You have donated enough. James Hamilton changed size a lot. Do you know what? At this point, I'm never surprised when everyone tells me a certain family or individual changed sides. At the end of the day, your warfare is about hedging your bets, as much as it is loyalty to a cause. And traitor gets thrown around a lot, but our ideas of nationality and nationhood and identity are not the same back then as they are today. Depending on which school of thought you follow on the rise of nationalism, there's a lot of schools of thought. I actually want to do a talk on the rise of nationalism in Ireland, but not the nationalism that is associated with Ireland for most people's idea of Irish nationalism, but the actual concept of nationalism, nationhood and statehood and national identity, which is something I was writing a paper on a few years ago, and I would probably like to pick it up again and do a talk on it. So if any of you want to be bored to death of that topic, so Aaron, Patricia, April, Mr. Apocalypse, thank you very much. O'Brien's, I've covered the O'Brien's pretty much in most videos. Dalcassian family, with Brian Boru, and Emperor of the Gaels, High King of Ireland, left many of his sort of, in fact, really interestingly, the O'Briens, I believe, Tullaoge Fort, there were two O'Briens that owned Tullaoge Fort, which was an area where the O'Hagans, I believe it is, the O'Hagans used to crown a branch of the O'Neills. But they were put there, two of them were put there as a buffer state against the O'Briens in the south for a wee while. So I don't know if they left any descendants there, if any of those O'Briens from the Tullaoge area. But there's also a knight who came across de Brian in, I'm not sure, I think it was the 13th century or 14th century. So there could be descendants of his too, but by and large I think 90% of his would be Dalcassian stock. O'Briens were supers. Well, it's a little bit more complex than that, but I mean, if you're running the risk of losing your entire what was your kingdom, then but again, it comes down to religion, timing. Boyles, so Boyles has two branches, primarily Donegal, both of them. Where the Earls of Donegal, I think, were Boyles who were of English stock, and then you have the Boyles who were of native Gaelic stock in the area. I wouldn't know how anyone would ever be able to differentiate which line they descend from, but genealogy might help with that. Message retracted. Fionn, Don't be scared. uh, Mackay, yeah. So Mackay is one of those names. It's probably one of the worst names if you have it. To know where you come from, because it comes from the name A or E depending on your pronunciation, depending on where you come from. So we have it's like I know people who pronounce it McKay now, Mackay. Um, so there's many variations. Most famous branch are from Scotland, but it's found all over Ulster, because A or E would also translates to Hughes, so you've got McHughes who are also McKays or McKays. It's a horrible, horrible name to have if you're looking to research what line you descend from. It's a bit like being a Doyle. It wouldn't be very easy to distinguish which line you sort of descend from, purely because of how many branches, unrelated branches, and how scattered the history is and the variations of it. I do feel sorry for the McKays and Mackays. But I mean, if you want to keep it simple, just the Gallowglass family of northern tips of Scotland. I believe it's the Mackays that were. There's a myth about them that they used to fight with the shield and the sword in the wrong hands, because and it used to put their enemies off. Brian Academy, your brother is in Fingal. Would he ever have fought with a shield and a sword in the other hand? I see the Hennessy. The Oungasa. Yeah, that's where that comes from. Excuse me. They're Desmond family, so Munster is Prime Minister, but again, it's Oungasa is quite a common name in medieval Ireland, so there could be a couple of branches, descended from them, but I know that primarily the more written about family is from Desmond. French Hennessy, and again, like pretty much most anglicised names of an Irish name, like Hennessy, so you've got the Oungasa or the Hennessy's, who are both retained or become Hennessy's. You're going to have a line that sort of descends from an outlying group of people, English, Scottish. We have Palatine Germans across here. We've had, just about everyone. French Huguenots settle in Ireland, which I believe Kurt Cobain's line from Ulster descended from. I think it was Monaghan area. So any Cobains there? There's I believe he had the Huguenot connection. Dave, Erin, Patricia, Bob Stone, Sid, thanks for your first gift. Kelly, Carol, April, Deb, thank you very much. You don't have to gift. I always say, if you're gonna gift, if you just save it up and get us a membership, that would be great. And then you can come to our membership only lives, where it's a bit more personal, and I can give you a bit more information on your name. And we have a membership only live on St. Patrick's Day, talking about the families involved in St. Patrick's life in Ireland, whether it be the family that kidnapped him, the family that made him herd the sheep, or one of the families that were converted by him and I mean the descendants of these individuals, possible descendants of these individuals. Kurt Cobain's mum was an O'Connor. Well, if he came from Monaghan, he's probably related to the same O'Connor line I am, which is down here in the Connor meet. I could be related to him. It's probably where I get my beautiful singing voice from. I can't sing. Have a drink. Sorry, let me go. Have a drink. Have a drink. I love it. That if they know your surname, they know what country. Emmer's um, yeah, it's one of these. It's one of the fun things that so Embers has said she loves the fact that if they know what surname, they know what county you're from. I mean, there's a lot of problems. It's not with every family, and there are sort of caveats to those rules. But by and large, most people have a general idea. There's various local markers, whether that be religion, whether that be locale, that can sort of give a family an idea of who they descend from. Yes, whenever we had the sort of Industrial Revolution and the famines that forced families into these hubs, Dublin, Belfast, Limerick, Galway, where things get a bit muddled up. But yeah, it is one of the things that certainly makes Irish surnames unique, or a good portion of them anyway. Ronald Reagan's ancestors were Reagans, who emigrated from Middlesex. You think he was Scottish? No, I thought Reagan was Irish. There's a Mount Reagan up here in a place called Dundonald as well. I've never looked into the reason for that, whether it gets its name from a more recent family, or it's a link to an older family in the area. Yes, my bad, Tipperary. A lot of famous families, Tipperary. A lot of famous families from all over. That's the great thing about Ireland. I'm excited how much information you are able to provide. How do you retain all this information? Okay, I cheat, Hannah, because here's the thing with Irish families. So, like I said before, Fermanagh, we've got the Maguires. So, if you know that the Maguires exist, and then you've got the McCannesses, the Macaulays, and McCaffreys, or descend from them, all you need to really know is the Maguires' origin history, and suddenly you know the origin history of 4 families. So it's a bit of a hack, really, to know the origin story of most families, or the bigger groups, and then from that you learn the origin stories of most families. I mean, and then a lot of it comes from just being an absolute nerd, and the fact that every individual I've ever met in my entire life who has a surname, I Google a surname, I research a surname, not as an individual, but where the surname comes from, because I just have this great interest. I used to use it as a great way to, whenever I'd work at a new place, I would sort of go, oh, you are Ryan, and then I would know about that, and I would be like, oh, do you know your family's from Tipperary? And normally they've got like a story about that or something, and it's a really good way to sort of build that sort of friendship with people. So yeah, it's thank you, Texas, for the follow. Zena, Elodie, Larry, Connor, Dave, thank you, Connor, thank you very much for the subscription to Durfin rank. Now, just so you know, I'll hopefully see you on Monday the 17th for the members only live, where we'll be talking about St. Patrick and all the families associated with St. Patrick's life, all the Irish clans and families that were linked to him. So I hope to see you then, but I do a membership only live once a month where it's a bit more personal, and I can give you a bit more information on these rather than just a locale. And thank you, Hannah. Do you know what? I'm glad you're amazed, because most people in my life have been utterly bored to death with it. O'Rourke's, I've covered them before, many videos in the lives, but they're a branch of Brefna related to the O'Reillys, and often rivals against each other for the name. Divine. So Divine, actually, it's funny, we were just talking about Fermanagh. Divine were the sort of one of the families in Fermanagh who the Maguires supplanted and moved on. They're also I believe a Braham family, and links to a church which I haven't located yet, but I'm trying to find the link to the church. So whenever I do my Earn Families of Ireland video, I'll have that for you. They'll be in there. So that's them basically. Who else? I'm trying to scroll up to make sure. I'm sorry if I'm missing. Just keep spamming that the name, and I'll hopefully get to it. But we are coming close to the Scottish surnames. So I did promise. I've promised a lot of people some Scottish surnames. And I think it's only fair that I don't renege on that. But so maybe the last one is, I saw there, Clancy's and O'Clancy's is Clare family. So there's actually a Cahir McClancy townland in Clare, and they were a hereditary family of Brehons, I believe they were. So again, they will appear in one of my videos in upcoming months. Right. So let me have a quick swig of water. Sequoia, Thyracus, the desert tree. Thank you very much for the gifts. Again, you don't have to gift, but I do appreciate it. I just seen one of my subs in here. One of the subscribers. Users, thank you very much. Maybe they've just come in to the chat. Well, welcome. I didn't see which sub it was. It's too fast. If you I don't know if anyone here is actually like a total TikTok. Oh, there, I can see you, Kathy, and I can see you, Connor. So I will have to renege on my Scottish name just for a second, because I need to answer their questions. It's only fair. They are members, and I have to treat my members with all the love. So I think, Kelly, you're asking, was it the Leithanes, was it? Let me just the Leithanes. Yeah, so they are a Cork family, often anglicised to Leon and Leon, and I believe they actually aren't really. They're not from the Oronoctor. They're from I think they're Dacia. If I'm the King Group of Dacia, which had links to, they actually took over parts of Wales, and if any of you have served in the British Army, you'll know an area called Brecon Beacons, especially, and that is named after an Irish king. And Connor, where are you? Because I know I owe you one as well as a member. So where are you? Oh yeah, they are. Dargan from Dublin. They're not originally from Dublin. Again, as I spoke about the 17th century migrations into these hubs, through the plantations, through the famine, and through the Industrial Revolution. So, but Dargans are a Cork family originally, or the main branch anyway. Again, I don't know of any sort of other lines to them, but I know that they're primarily associated with Cork. So your family's probably made its way up to Dublin during those sort of more recent times. Okay, look, right. Ali, right, so you come through there. Welcome, one of my subs. Let me find your question. I will say, if any of the subs are still in, we're going to be moving to Scotland after this. But like I say, if you're coming onto the Monday membership only live, I will make sure I set aside enough time to adequately answer the questions that you might have on your surname. Sorry, I'm trying to find you what you asked. I can't find which surname you said. It just moves so fast. it's one of these ones that oh, was it Keeley? Okay, yes. Yeah, so Keeley's is actually, again, it's one of those names with multiple branches. So there's Keeley's in Galway, there's Keeley's in Wicklow, there's Keeley's in Kilkenny. So they're all sort of unrelated, and they come from multiple variations of the name. Ocala. Yeah, these are sort of the three main areas that you'd see them in. So I don't know which sort of line your family. Thank you. I am Montgomery. Is that say? Ed, thank you for the perfumes. Jez, Stephen Riddle, Exit, Sean, Nikki. Thank you very much for this, the membership, the subscription, the memberships. Hopefully see you on the membership only live on Monday the 17th. But I do them once a month, so if I miss you, if you can't make it, then we will see you on another one. Right, hang on, I'm missing the subscription only requests here. I think I might have to. Oh, thank you, Ali. I appreciate that. Like I say, I will set aside time, but like it's every month. But so any of this, Connor, is it okay if I skip on until we head on to the Scottish side of the chat? I don't want to. And Shauna Key. Well, if Watham. I've heard was a Bruce from. Well, we're gonna be talking about Scotland now anyway. So let's go across to Scotland. So stop all the Irish surnames. Stop. Breen. There's 3 branches found in Meath all the way up to Ulster. But stop. Right, I'm gonna change the map here. I'm sorry. You've forced my hand. These are just too persistent. And I love it. I do love it. I love the. So let's put a wee. Let's get rid of you. Goodbye, Ireland. And let's put a Scottish map. And Hannah Sequoia Sky, thank you very much for the membership subscriptions. I hope to see you on Monday on this membership only lives. Kate and Katie Farrell and Dana, thank you very much for the gifts, and Julie. Thank you to all the people who have followed tonight as well. I don't get to see the follows. I'm really sorry. So there you go. Right, hang on. I need to adjust that a wee bit. Right, there. We're in Scotland now. We've moved. I don't want to hear any more Irish surnames for tonight. I'm on tomorrow. I'm on tomorrow again, 10 till 12. Yes, Connor. Give me 2 seconds. I'm on tomorrow between 10 and 12, and then, like I say, the subscription only live on Monday. So so right. So again, what was Connor asking? He did say his surname, but I had to. Gorley. So Gorley's an Irish and Scottish surname. So it would be associated with like the likes of McTurley, and primarily found in Tyrone and Tyrone and Armagh. But the McTurleys and the McGorleys, there's that sort of overlap. But I don't know. I believe the Gorleys of Scotland are of Norman extraction, but I'm not sure exactly where they came from. But I know it's a location. Let me just get this map a bit more central for you TikTokers, so you can see. And I need my YouTube tab back up because I'm missing all their chat. What are they saying to me? I'm sure you TikTokers are quite happy with that. Right. Fimacool Highlander. Fimacool was an Irishman. Can we argue about that? Can we So butlers, although they fought in Scotland, it's an Irish and English surname. We'll cover them another night. Although I do have a video of the butler's entire history on my YouTube channel, if you want to, check that out. Please feel free to do so. Right, so let me start whittling down these Scottish surnames. Again, I will apologise if any names. I will not know as many names from like the Buchan area, the Merrent area, Fife. This sort of side of the country is my weakest area in history when it comes to surnames. I primarily focus on Gaelic surnames of the Highlands, of Galloway, and the Reaver families, and purely the reason for the Reaver families is purely because of their connection to Ulster, which is why I know a lot about them. But this sort of area of Scotland, although I know the general history, obviously, sort of kings and king groups and stuff, actual surnames in the area, beyond the bigger, more famous ones like your Gordons, are unfortunately. So, but I always strive, and whenever I want to, like a lot of my subscription only chats will be focusing on certain areas each time. So I will make sure that I've researched those areas well and their surnames. So Lisa Belfast Child, thank you very much for the subscription. I hope to see you on Monday the 17th of March for the subscription only live, which I do once a month, where I can talk to you a bit more personal, give you a bit more information. But for St. Patrick's life in Ireland and the families associated with his life, I hope to see you there. Kat, thank you very much. Hannah, thank you very much. Oh, I've already said that. Thank you, but thank you. Oh, say thank you and thank you again. MacDonald, yes. So MacDonald is probably, arguably, the second most famous non-royal line of the Kingdom of Scots in Ireland, in Scotland, I would say, after the Campbells. Just because of the size of the kingdom and the cadet branches that came off them, such as the MacDowells. Amongst many others. So, which I saw someone said that they wanted to know about MacDowell. So, they come from Smarley, who was a Gall Gael, half Irish, half Scottish, half Irish, half Viking extract, paternally of Viking descent and maternally of Irish descent, and they settled and they became kings of the Isles. Before the Stuarts came and whittled them down to Lords of the Isles. But they also owned land in Antrim in Ireland too. So we've got the Murrays of Murrays. There's branches down here of Murrays, down near Fife. Breen's Irish. We'll cover Breen soon, boy. O'Kane's again is Irish from the O'Cahan. Cover them, although they've been in previous lives. Hang on. Did I do Ramsey? Did I do Ramsey Fionn? I can't remember. I'm starting to lose where I saw your name and I don't know if I actually did it or not. I'll wait for your reply, Fionn, because I think it's only fair. You did nae do Ramsey, sir. I apologise, but I want brownie points for waiting on you. Any other streamer would have been like, nah, go away. Too long. You're just a name and number to me. You're nothing to me. So Ramsey's originally came up from Huntingdonshire. And Cambridge, the same locale as Oliver Cromwell, although his paternal ancestors were Welsh. So yeah, they came up with the journey 13th century with the Holy Flemish and the Bretons and I apologize. I hope this relationship hasn't ended just yet. No, you're good. I'm quick to forget. Any slights on me, I'm quick to forget. I'm too nice. That's what it is. I'm too a bit of a pushover. Um, so yeah, they are like I said, they originally came from Huntingdon, or Cambridge area. Um, uh, Now, I know I'm going to put this out there here because I know a lot of people are going to have this similar with the surname Shaw, um, Ramsey, many others, where they go, it's an Anglo-Saxon name. Just because it's an Anglo-Saxon word, and this naming applies with Gaelic names too, especially in the Highlands and Northern Scotland. And you've got Anglo-Saxon names, inverted commas. Now, although the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms did make their way all the way up to Edinburgh of Northumbria, the Kingdom of Northumbria, um, just because your surname is of Anglo-Saxon origin in the name of it, or Gaelic origin, does not mean that your paternal ancestors are from a Gaelic line or an Anglo-Saxon line. They're just taking the name of the area. They're just taking the name of a son or father who's been given a Gaelic name because they're now living within a Gaelic kingdom. And a great example of this is the Campbells, who come from Campbell, who I think it means crooked mouth, or loosely translates to crooked mouth, which is a Gaelic word. But they weren't Gaels. Modern genetics proves that they have paternal links to the Britons, so Brythonic groups in this area. So it's just so such things like Ramsey, although I think it has links to like an Anglo-Saxon word, which I do not know. It's to say their Anglo-Saxon stock is silly, but they were. So the Ramsays came over with King David I, like most Norman knights. Norman's a loose term, obviously, and they became the Earls of Dalhousie. Dalhousie. I don't know how to pronounce that though. Is it Dalhousie? It's just Dal house, isn't it? Yeah. So that's the. Excuse me. I need to lubricate the old voice glands. 2 hours talking a night takes out of you. Mahoney is Irish. I will be doing more Irish names tomorrow. But as of now, I'm sticking to Scotland. Hence the map. I'm trying to force you to understand. It's Scotland only from now on. You can't force me. Is Ritchie a Scottish surname? Yeah, Ritchie is. Well, again, it's another name, but there are Ritchie branches. So there are Ritchies who are unrelated, but it's primarily associated with Perth, the area of Perth, and I believe they are found in multiple branches, such as I think McPherson's. Macintoshes. So if you are Ritchie, you could be one from descended from cadet lines of those. But so that's Ritchie's. But then again, it's a name that can be found sort of anywhere. Excuse me. Is Bradley a Scottish surname? I'm not aware of any Scottish links. It's primarily Irish, from what I'm led to believe. There may be some English branches, but I'm not aware of any Scottish branch of Bradley's. Same goes with Casey. Then. Walsh again. I'm not aware of any Scottish lines of Walsh. Plenty of them in Irish. But I'm not aware of any Welsh sort of lines of. Unfortunately, there could be. And I know that obviously you'll have families that have moved in from Ireland during such things as the famine, and all these sort of for work later on during the 19th century, but I wouldn't really, although they are well established now in Scotland, I wouldn't really call them Scottish names, per se. I need a wee. Where was the map that I was pulling up before? Drummond. Yeah, so Drummond are a Highland clan from Perthshire. So, like, you're sort of like here. um, so yeah, that's the Drummonds are from this neck of the woods. Comes from a Gaelic word. Don't ask me to pronounce it though. But yeah, the Drummonds. Sheehy is a. No, the only reason I'm going to answer this is because they've got links to Scotland coming from a Gallowglass family, but they were, they were a branch of the MacDonalds anyway, a Gallowglass family that established themselves in Ireland, and that's the only reason I'm covering them right now, because they have a link to Scotland, primarily before they were given lands in Ireland. So that's the only reason you managed to sneak that little Irish surname in. Well, again, it's hard to say. McWilliams, I love McWilliams because there's a branch of McWilliams that are descended from. They were a cadet branch of the Royal House of Scotland. I think it was Dunkells or Canmores, but they were an ancient line associated with them, and they had a wee bit of a rebellion against these sort of Norman kings that were coming through. They got slapped, unfortunately, but they're, McWilliams is a very common name. It's found, but Moray, there's a branch up in Moray and Ross who are descended from a kingly line, from the MacAlpin sort of lines. Like I said, they had a wee rebellion, but like William was a very common name in Scotland, so there's McWilliam Burkes as well, who are in Ireland, who are descended. Like I say, McWilliams is going to have a lot of origin points, but I know of that branch up in Moray and Ross in Scotland, and purely because they've got a really interesting sort of link. So there you go, Macbeth stuff, and so it's all that sort of the Dunkeld lines and Canmore lines, and or the old Gaelic lines of the throne, as it were. But yes, McWilliams is found everywhere, and they're all going to be unrelated. Gallagher has an Irish name in Donegal, but we're not doing Ireland for the rest of tonight. I will be doing them tomorrow. Lieutenant Dan, love that name. Tricia, love that film. Dara Devines, DSC, quite lovely. Mama Ramey, Tion, EKC, Dina Brown, Emma, Sleep, thank you for your first gift as well. Alicia Noel, thank you very much. You do not have to gift. I really do appreciate it though. Like I say, if you've got a spare bit of change, any of you want to be a member, that'd be great for the members only lives on once a month. The next one's on Monday. Actually, McNinch, yeah. So McNinch is like McAngus. The McNinch is another one that's sort of like, I think it has this like connotations of being a Pictish line. Picts didn't have surnames, so it's very hard to say you've like a Pictish line. And Angus is a very common name in Ireland and Scotland. But I'm not saying that it didn't exist. There isn't that link to any sort of Brythonic groups in Scotland. I'm just very wary whenever you see on these. Here's the thing, gotta remember all the chat here tonight. You'll read there's a lot of websites when you first Google a name. I don't want to like throw any names, websites under the bus, purely because I don't know like how big they are and they might sue me. But the first, you'll see the generic websites, spouting who your family is and where they descend from, and they're often wrong. or they take a strand. They just lump a lot of families into one, which is incorrect. It won't sort of differentiate between multiple lines. So I do try to separate the lines where I can and sort of say, look, there's a line here. They may not have a glorious history as the bigger line. A great example is sort of many MacArthurs have become Campbells, and the MacArthurs are sort of overshadowed by their Campbell brethren because they were, so massive. The Campbells just married right and joined the right sides all through history. And the MacArthurs are the actual older line, if they're even related paternally, because there's an ancient link there. But I digress. What I'm trying to say is that I do try and sort of separate the two. So just be careful when you're going on these sort of generic Google websites for your history, because they're nonsense, a lot of them. Did somebody say Campbell Brethren? Sorry, hang on. Picked, not Scottish. I mean, I would use the term picked as saying they're Scottish, as I would say the Anglo-Saxons and the Normans who came across were English, or in a generic term to encompass as much as I can without breaking it down into ancient groups, especially since the Picts weren't really a united people. And nor were the Anglo-Saxons before Ethelred. Was he the first king of Scotland, England? So to sort of lump them all together, and it's the same with the Gaels. I mean, the only reason the Gaels could sort of claim some sort of homogeneity is through things such as the Brehon laws, and a lot more into kinship between, and a possibility of a high king. But even then, that's up for debate. Let me see. There's so many of you tonight. Again, where do you all come from? Is Henry a Scottish surname? Again, it's an English word. I know that there's a Henry that are a branch of the Hendersons, but I would say there's going to be a lot of Henrys who aren't related. It's one of those names that sort of has. It could easily be descended from a lot of ways, but I know that probably the more famous sort of line is the branch from the Hendersons, or Hendry. It's another anglicisation of that. So hope that sort of answers that question. I really feel like I should have put a second map up for those of you who, because that map's quite, I don't even know what that map is. I just pulled up a map of Scotland, just so you could sort of get an idea of Scotland, because I know visualising it, especially if you're not from the UK or Ireland, visualising a place can be quite difficult. But yeah, so were the Douglases a Gaelic family? Douglas is a very famous family, owning lands around here. Well, there's multiple branches. Another branch over here, and then I think you've got there's another branch that would took the name Douglas Hamilton. So although the name Douglas is the actual name is Scottish, as in the word is Scottish, and it comes from, I only know the first bit, which is like dove or dove, which is black, or dark black. So I don't know what lus is, but yeah. So it's a Gaelic word. They were later migrants into Scotland, and and I think the first sort of, like I say, the first individual, I don't know who he was, but he came across in, like I say, in the 13th century, like a lot of families, 12th to 13th century. But I'm not. I'm pretty sure they're a Norman family. So, or when I say Norman again, please know I am sort of grouping them together with the Flemish, the Bretons, the English, the French Normans, the English Normans of the time. I can't remember. I think they are of Fleming origin, but don't quote me on that one. But they are the Norman group that came across with David the First. So, someone's asked about a Galloway surname, and Galloway is one of those interesting ones. It's sort of been a rule unto its own in Scottish history. Even during the Scottish Wars of Independence, it mostly sided with the English, but there were Galloway units within Bruce's army. It's a bit like Lothian too, but Galloway, when it comes to Galloway surnames, because it's been heavily influenced by at one time sort of like you've got the Brythonic groups, you've got the Gaelic groups, you've got the Viking groups, you've got the Saxon groups, you've got it's one of those ones that sort of has so many influences that I would say that many of the names there, and a lot of the names there do have the Mac prefix on them, but but their main lines are of not Gaelic descent. I'm a Quigley from Ireland. Hello, Quigley. Let me see. So again, Galloway, so you've got quite some famous families that did come across from the main landholders came and they actually came out of Galloway on the ships to plant Ulster. Galloway is one of those places that it was used by sort of in the 19th century and 20th century by sort of loyalists to sort of justify a link to claiming Ireland due to, apparently they're of Gaelic stock in that area, so they're just people returning home. I'm not going to go into politics or anything like that, but yeah, it's one of those areas. It's sort of got a good mix. Collins is an Irish name. Brannan is an Irish name. Breen is an Irish name. Maloney is an Irish name. Robertson, very famous Scottish family. Very famous Irish. Not Irish. That's a slip of the tongue. Very famous Scottish clan. And they, I don't know what it's. I think they've got other branches, like Duncan's a famous line of them, but I don't know if there's any. But they are from Perthshire, so bunk in this area here. But yeah, the reason they got Duncan as a branch is because they actually descend from Clan Donegal. They take the name from a Gaelic name from Donegal. There's multiple origin points for their name. This Donegal could be from like an ancient kingly line, from the Earls of Atholl, which is within their sphere of influence. Another line they claim from the MacDonalds, but I haven't done the research. But I wonder if my friend Clint Edwards at Scottish Clans podcast has. If he has, check him out. He's well worth a listen to on YouTube. And TikTok's telling me off, because apparently if you don't move the mouse for long enough, it says you're inactive. It's alright, TikTok, I'm leaving soon. 20 minutes, give me 20 more minutes. User 998 Tricia, Jax Lone Star, Lisa Lillis, D Parsu. Apologies there, D. Yeah, for IDT coach, Lieutenant Dan's back again. Oh, it's that same one, but regardless, thank you very much, Jax. Thank you very much for the hearts, the roses. Is that a belt? I don't know. But thank you. You don't have to gift. I don't do this for the gifts. I do this because I love my history, and I know you will do too. But the gifts and the subscriptions especially are greatly appreciated because they give me the funds to buy books, which are always so expensive. I don't understand how we justify them. Is Wilson a Scottish name? Yeah, so Wilson, there are Irish Wilsons, anglicised, but it's son of William. Again, there are multiple names, but there's the most famous sort of area seems to be like Wigtown, which is this sort of area of the world, is the most famous sort of, or not most famous, most just written about. But I know that there's a link to Clan Gun for one line as well, who claim to be a Viking family. So, yeah. Wilsons are like the Smith of Scotland and Ulster. Yeah, exactly. You know, it's an abbreviation of Williams. You know, so Williams, very popular name. So I think we spoke about another name earlier with William, the Mac Williams. And like I say, there's Irish Wilsons who are completely Gaelic Irish, living right next door to complete Scottish planter families called Wilson, and neither know which one is which, you know, really. So it's just so intermingled, which is a great thing. It's a great thing. The blending of our cultures. Is Leon's Irish? It is. It is an Irish name. It's an Anglicization. But I'm not going to tell you of which one till another night, because we did it. If you're really that desperate, I spoke about them, I believe, yesterday. So you've Shay O'Shea's an Irish name. We'll get it. Look at the maps of Scotland, boys. Come on. Look. So, Talbot. Yeah, Talbot's. It's an English name. It's from Shropshire, but it's found primarily in they had a lot of land given to them in Ulster. They give their name to a village. Actually, there's a village called Ballyhalbert on the Ards Peninsula, which takes their name from them, or the original name for it. Anyway, it's like Ballytalbot. So Ballyhalbert, do you live near Ballyhalbert? Because if you do, I don't live too far either. Which is why I know that wee thing. Well, if you're ever in a caravan up there, let me know. Carols are Irish. We'll do them again. Sorry, hang on. Someone keeps writing a big one, and I keep missing it, and I want to make sure I get them because I've wrote it a few times. Where was you? Look for the Gifford. Okay, Gifford. As far as I'm aware, Gifford and Tull. Gifford is an English name. I believe they are migrants into Scotland, an English family that migrated into Scotland. I don't know where them. But yes, it's an English name that made its way into Scotland. Tully, was that Tully? Again, I've lost that again, but was it Tully? Armstrong is, well, technically you could argue Armstrong's an English name because it's mostly found on the southern side, in history, on the southern side of the border, but depending where the border was in history, but it's a border reaver family which were a culture unto their own, really, who claim descent from. The reason they got the name Armstrong is because they lifted the king, I believe, from a boar attack and lifted him with one hand, or lifted the boar with one hand. I can't remember which one. Those sort of those stories are attributed to many families. in Scotland. And I often think to myself, most of them are attributed to Robert the Bruce, and I think, how often did Robert the Bruce get himself into trouble with boars and other animals that clan founding members would have to save him every couple of months. So, let me just adjust my seat. Mary Doge, Family Transform, Peck Duggins. Thank you very much for the gifts. I really do appreciate that. Let's have a look here. So, let's have a see here. So, McCluskey. I'm not aware of any Scottish McCluskies. I know of the McCluskies of Derry, who are Kinlow branch related to the O'Cahans, but I'm not aware of any Scottish ones. Doesn't mean there's no Scottish ones. Obviously, the sharing of names between the two groups is quite common. So to say that Fitzalan, I believe there's a Fitzalan line associated with the Stuarts, with their early names, because they descend from an Alan Fitzalan, I believe. So there is a branch associated with them. So technically it's a Norman name. Well, the Stuarts were Breton, so technically it's a Breton name, I suppose, if you want to get really down into the weeds. It's I need another drink. So Farrell's an Irish name, but I saw another name on there. Was it McElrath? If it was McElrath, they're from Ayrshire. So if you're wondering, the McElraths, they're quite I believe there are Irish variations of the name, but primarily Ayrshire is associated with the McElraths. Was that Johnson? Again, it's one of those names that's going to have so many branches. There is, was it the Johnsons? I'm pretty sure there's the Johnsons of Clochey and owned Clochey Castle. Well, no, it's not Clochey. It's in Clochey, but it's a town line next to it. Oh, it's going to annoy me. Kirkeston Castle. I believe Johnson's owned that for a wee while. So they're Scottish. They were a Scottish line, and they own Kirkeston Castle in County Down, North Down, for a short time. Let me see. Mulholland. I live in Northern Ireland. Me too. I live in Mulholland, in Northern Ireland. Mulholland, again, I only know it for the Irish branch of that family, from Moyle Callahan, who were, devotee of Callan or Callans. But they were found in Ulster. But then again, if there was a Scottish line of them, they've ended up in Ulster and probably intermingled with the two. But most Mulhollands of Ulster would be native Irish, I would assume. But where are we going? Lisa Lillis, baby girl, thank you very much for the gifts, the hearts, the roses. Oh, there's too many. Do you know what? I've scrolled up to find a name, and now I've come back down to like 200 comments. O'Connell and Duffy are Duffy, I suppose, if it could be a variation of Duff, famous Duffs. I believe actually the Queen of Britain, Queen Elizabeth II, was her mother had a Duffy connection or a Duff connection, but Duffy is very common in Ulster as well, an Irish line found around Armagh. Flannery's Irish. I'm not doing Irish at the minute. I'm trying to avoid to anyway, but you guys are. Oh, hang on. I've got a subscription member asking a question. Where did that go? Kelly, was it? Let me find you. Yeah, sorry. Subscription members get priority. I mean, they are what keeps this channel alive. Avrit. I know the links to England, but I don't know of any Scottish lines of Avrit. Did I want to see something about a link to the McGregors? Kelly, I'll have to come back to you. I think there's a link to the McGregors, but I'm not 100% sure. But I'm pretty sure most Avrits come from England. Duffy, Murphy, and he said another one there, are the oldest names in Ireland. I would disagree. I would say the oldest names in Ireland are Cleary, Cannon, possibly I think the other who are related to the Cannons. Is it the Heenies? Are the oldest names in Ireland. But if you have a source that sort of just discredits that, I am always happy to read them. I do nothing but read about surnames and their origins. So if you have a better source, throw it my way. I would be happy to read it. Iris Bracken, Blake, Chance, thank you very much for the gifts, the hearts. I really do appreciate that. Don't have to gift, but I really do appreciate the these are my 66. Thanks, Lisa Lillis. Thank you very much again for the 10 roses. Honestly, you don't have to gift. All it's going to do is be spent on books anyway. And you're going to drive my wife mad. Family Transformed, thank you. But like I say, if you are spending money on gifts, if you can, would love subscriptions, where I do subscription only lives, where I know a lot of you have a lot of questions that I can only skit across, but on the subscription only lives we do a lot membership only lives once a month, and they're a bit more personal. I give you a bit more information because I have a bit more time with you, because there's not there's sort of 600 people altogether in this one, and there's been sort of several thousand of you at one stage, so it's 300 people, but there's been a lot of you here, so so Lioness Devon, thank you very much for the hearts. A fist bump. Oh, I've never seen a fist bump before. I don't know what any of these means. Cassidy, thank you for the rose. I just know that you're spending your hard-earned money on me, and there's better people. Kennedy, yes, so Kennedy's got an Irish and Scottish links. So there are unrelated families who are one branch from Scotland, who are from Carrick and Ayrshire, and then you've got the Kennedys of County Clare, who are related to Brian Boru and the Dalcash. So sorry, and I was pointing at the wrong place, but here you go. That's Ayrshire. So there's a lot of castles in here, a lot of Kennedy castles. Apparently my surname comes from Galway. I didn't catch your surname. Was it Conway? Conair? Yeah, like son of the prince. Yeah, so there's a famous Galway name. Coffee is related to the Driscolls. It's an Irish name. I've talked about it before. Rivals and kinsmen of the O'Driscolls from the Corca Ligda Again, O'Driscoll is the same as the Coffees. I've got shorts on the O'Driscolls. Um, so Morrison, again, anything with like son on the end of it will have multiple origin points. There's like the name Murish, and then there's like the links to like the servant of Mary, who are like, so it'd be like McGillimore. So Morrison's got, again, multiple. You can have Irish and Scottish sort of ancestry, but I know like the most famous Morrisons that most people sort of attribute themselves to are from the Isles of Lewis and Harris. So these are the Isles of here. So so there are Highland clan, and I believe there's obviously again links to Lowland Scotland, but it's such a common name. So that's Morrison even. Corrigan's an Irish name. I'm not doing Irish names at the minute. We're finishing up the live with the Scottish surnames because I owed them. I owed actually a guy from YouTube called Celtic, and he hasn't even been here for it. So Black Irish, yeah, it's a term used to describe Irish people. No links to the Spanish. Most Spanish from the field armada were killed. Very few escaped, and if they did escape and marry into it, so Mulcrone is another name in Ireland from Mayo that sort of gets the association of being Black Irish and descended from the Spanish armada. But any individuals that escaped would have had very little impact on the gene pool. So any of that link is over exaggerated. In fact, the English were sending investigators out to look for survivors after the Armada, and not many were found. In fact, they came up blank, primarily. And a lot of the Irish were killing those Spanish, even though they were friendly with the Spanish. They were killing them for looting them, and also because they didn't want to be found harboring a. You don't want to be found harboring a Spanish during that war, especially when I've already explained how brutal the Tudors were in Ireland. Did I say McQuillan? That's normally an Irish surname, so there's two branches or two associated things. Antrim is the name main in Ireland. They had a lot to do with the only reason I sort of answer. So they are possibly of Cambro-Norman descent or of Kinloan descent, depending on which theory you go by. But the only reason I'm going to sort of mention them is because they had a lot to deal with the MacDonalds of Ulster, who were obviously the MacDonalds, a branch of the MacDonalds of the Isles. O'Doyle is an Irish and English surname. Unrelated lines. I never really had the title O in front of it. As a Doyle, when it was translated to Doyle, most just kept I'd already dropped the O from O'Dovego. So, right, we're coming up to this towards the end of this live. YouTube, you don't get the extra time today because I was on time, or on time as I normally am anyway. But I'll answer. What about the Ogles? Ogles family are traditionally found in like Northumberland, or in like Northumbrian areas that held, so you're sort of southern Scotland. There's a castle. There's an Ogle castle as well. It's worth probably worth a visit. I've never seen it. I just know from googling castles a while back there was an Ogle castle. But yeah, it's from Dahoogle, which is obviously a Norman name. But yeah, Northumberland's primarily where they're found in lowland Scotland. So that's the Ogles. So again, thank you all for attending. I really appreciate the love and support. To those of you that have subscribed, there's still another stream tomorrow night at this time, 10 till 12. Any of you that are so come tomorrow, and then I will see many of you on the subscription only live on Monday. But until then, I will say thank you very much for all the love and support. Ola, Thomas, Nicole, Rich, Rini, B-Town Fishing, thank you very much for the gifts. I really do appreciate that. You didn't have to do that. And I hope you have all, thank you for the follow, Robbie. I hope you all learned something. If not, I'm sorry, not doing my job right, but I'll see you all. Donaldson, lol, weirdos. Well, one of them is. So, thanks very much, and I will see you all soon. Take care now. Good night, YouTube. Thanks very much for on. And and Ron, hopefully I'll get to your name sometime soon, maybe in the next live. But till then, I'm losing my voice. I need to save it for the next live. So take care now. Shalom.